Hey everyone, welcome back to iHeart Sports. Today we're going to do the second installment of our six-piece series breaking down the American League Central. If you haven't had a chance yet, check out our first installment where we broke down the American League East from key acquisitions to off-season signings to predictions of where each team is going to place in the division this year. Starting from the bottom here, we got the Chicago White Sox. Comes as no real surprise to see them down here. When you're doing your research, getting ready for fantasy and stuff like that, you're looking over their pitching staff. And some things I read, most notably that jumped out to me, was that this team's ace, James Shields. If anyone's been watching baseball the past 2 years, been doing fantasy of any sort, they see James Shields and they load up against him. He is home run prone beyond belief. He walks. The stadium is known for home runs, so that's just not going to go well. With a name like James Shield topping your rotation, I think that means you're in for a long season. The one highlight I could see on the Chicago White Sox this year, Jose Abreu. Again, he doesn't have a lot of talent going around them. They picked up Wellington Castillo, and that's really their only signing of note this year. While I'm recording this video, there has been some talks that they're going to pick up Moustakas or Cargo as free agent signings, but unless those signings go through, the Chicago White Sox they're in for a long season. Abreu is really the only thing that can get their runs or home runs and any offense going. So aside from him, there's not really a whole lot to talk about this team. Sorry to any Chicago White Sox fans. This is just my opinion, but they are looking like maybe potentially the bottom of the American League. Moving on to fourth in the division, I really have the Detroit Tigers. The reason I'm giving them the slight edge over the Chicago White Sox is due to their pitching. Their pitching's very young, some up-and-coming pitchers. Most notably on their team is Michael Fulmer, who's going into his third year as a starter. First rookie season, he had a really good year. Last year, he struggled at the beginning, but really started turning on near the end. They have Daniel Norris, who they picked up in a trade a couple years ago from the Toronto Blue Jays. He was a well-touted prospect for the Jays, so I'm really expecting him to turn it on this year. We'll really see if he has what it takes to be an MLB pitcher or not. They also have Matthew Boyd, who is hit and miss, but he can be a somewhat decent lefty at times. Mike Fears, who comes to them from Houston in the offseason. Again, he's MLB proven, but really not that great of a pitcher. That's really how I have them down in fourth this year. Their batting lineup is a mix of veterans and young talent. Cabrera, well-known Detroit Tiger, really coming off one of his weaker seasons last year. I kind of expect that to be more of the same this year. They have Victor Martinez, who's, again, getting on with his age. James McCann in the back catcher, he's starting to probably take over the role this year more permanently. Let's see. For more people that aren't super familiar with the Detroit Tigers, the rest of their names are kind of hit and miss. But Matuk, who will likely see a lot of the top of their lineup, coming over from the Angels last year, I believe. He's going to be more of a solid and someone going forward that they're looking to count on. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's really that he came from Tampa Bay. But yeah, that's really the Tigers for you. A whole lot of young talent in the starting rotation. They could do well this year. It's hard to say, but I expect some struggles as the season progresses and they started getting higher up in their innings pitched. But yeah, that's the Detroit Tigers for you in a nutshell. Moving on to third place in the Central here, we got the Kansas City Royals. The Royals, it's tough. This is a tough one. The Detroit Tigers and Royals I find to be very close in predicting, giving the Royals a slight edge. just because some of their signings in the offseason, however, being minor, make their depth a little bit stronger. And I also feel that the Royals bullpen is a little bit stronger. Herrera, who is expected to be the closer this year for the Royals, he struggled a lot at the end of last year's season, being yanked from the role. But I think now going into the season, he's going to have the role locked up. I think it's really going to allow him to slowly get into the role and not feel the pressure that he might have felt last season. Some of the minor signings that the Royals had, Michael Saunders, they signed him to a minor league contract. Tyler Collins, again, both MLB players for teams in the past previous years. So that's where I kind of give them the edge. I also give them the edge because they have an ace. Again, I say ace lightly in this situation, Danny Duffy. Um, he's had a couple good years the past 2 years. Last year, not as great as the year before, but if he can be a little bit more consistent this year, I do give them the edge over the Detroit Tigers. The Royals, they're going to have a long way to go before they get back to the glory lands they had a couple of years ago, winning the World Series and all. But what else do they really have? I don't see them competing. Well, competing for a wild card, yeah, they'll be in the hunt per se, but getting in, I really don't see it. This division, I see to be the weakest of the American League. Being in the center of the weakest division in the American League isn't going to be enough to get you very far. The Royals do have some things going for them. They play in a defensive friendly ballpark. Might work in their favor on some nights, but other than that, that's just where I see them. Moving on up, we're moving on to second place here. I think to nobody's surprise, these next two are pretty much set in stone for most people. I have second place being the Minnesota Twins. Twins fans must be pretty excited going into this season. They made some pretty interesting moves and signings over the offseason, picking up two pitchers that'll definitely be in their starting rotation. They got Michael Pineda, who, wow, he has potential. Like, he had a pretty good comeback season for the Yankees last year. They signed him to a 2-year contract. Really expect him in Target Stadium as opposed to Yankee Stadium to have some improvement to his numbers. So that's good for them. They also picked up Fernando Rodney, the bow and arrow. But as a relieving pitcher, he's shaky at best. He might blow a couple of saves for you this year. I'm not sure if that's the role they picked him up for, but we shall see. The Twins, their batting order really stays a lot to be the similar. They'll probably have Dozier up at the top, who's coming off still a pretty decent year. Nothing like the year he had before, but if he can ever match that again, the Twins are going to be something to be scared for. They got Sano, who loves to mash, strikes out a lot, but he's always that threat for the deep long ball. And with some of these hitters that the Twins have, some of the speed that they have, Max Kepler, who else they got? Eduardo Escobar, Jason Castro, who's going to be their catcher again. This team has some offense as well, so it's going to be interesting to watch. Their up-and-coming pitcher of Barrios, he we'll see. Like, he had a decent year last year. He's one of their touted prospects coming for a long way. He played for in the Worlds the year before and had quite a good World showing. So I think Twins have a lot to be excited about. I also almost forgot about Logan Morrison, another masher that they picked up. So this is going to be a good year for the Twins. I expect them to only build on their last year's wild card performance. Again, they'll probably only get in via wild card, but maybe they'll be able to squeak out the win this year. Sorry, Twins fans. But that's where I see the Twins. They're going to be right on the heels of these next Indians coming up, right up next. But yeah, it's going to be an exciting year for them. Last but certainly not least, we got the Cleveland Indians. It's no one's surprised I got them ranked top of the Central this year. Their pitching staff is by far the best in this division. They got 5 strong pitchers from Kluber, who's Cy Young candidate every year, it seems so far. Clevenger's their weakest link, and for a weak link, you can't really go too hard against them. Their lineup, they lost Santana this year, but they picked up Alonso from Oakland last year. So he had a very decent season, and his batting average was quite high compared to Santana. So that might even be an improvement. No Indians fans might not think that, but it's definitely possible. They got Edwin Encarnacion, Lindor, Ramirez again, even though he's just been playing out of his skull. He's continued to play hot for them. I like to look at this stadium, and I like to call it the Coors Jr. There's lots of offense in the stadium, lots of home runs, so be looking for this lineup to really kill it. Michael Brantley out in left field. He's definitely a masher when it comes from the left side of the plate. Bradley Zimmer, rookie for them last year, but he's really looking to make another push into their lineup. It really comes down to the Indians is how far they're going to push it this year. 2 years ago, they were in the World Series, and they just came up short. So I think that's really where they're looking for again. Anything other than a World Series really feel like a bust for them. So expect them to put it all out on the line again this year. And really, I don't know if I have them as my pick to make it from the American League yet this year. I'm going to come out with a video probably right before the season with some of my playoff predictions and World Series predictions, just like everybody does. But got to get it out there. But really expect the Indians to be above 600 without a question, and really have quite a stranglehold on this division. The Twins will be chipping at them, but don't see them being able to overcome the starting rotation and the offense that this team just has. They have the chemistry. They've been there before. It's whether they can make it there again. And I think that's the question that's on all the Indians' minds this year. And that wraps it up for our American League Central breakdown. Thanks for watching it. And make sure if you haven't had a chance to check out my other videos, American League East is the one that's out right now. Make sure you check that one out. The rest of them are going to be coming out in the next week or two, breaking down each and every division. It's just my opinions. I've been watching baseball for many years, but I really think my opinion has some weight to it. Make sure if you like this video to give it a like and subscribe, and we can see you around sometime soon.